Well, hello there, assurance heroes, and welcome to the A-Plan podcast. A is for assurance, and this is your weekly audit and risk talk show. We're the A-team. He's Emre, the tech guy.
He's Andy, the communication guy.
All right, guys, what have we got for you this week? So this week's topic is, what is the value of risk appetite statements in our imperfect world of work?
I don't know how I miss it. I'm usually very observant.
Swordfish!
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I don't know. Were you thinking, holy shit, a swordfish almost went through my head?
Every time we look on social media, LinkedIn, something like that, we're seeing a new post from an assurance thought leader, a risk expert, an audit risk expert, absolutely body slamming risk appetite statements and the value of these. So here's a few. Recently we had a look, and here's a few. So risk appetite statements are too simplistic. They're dumbed down. They're enforced and encouraged by external parties, consultants, regulators, insurance companies, credit rating agencies. No CEO has ever said, we need to define our risk appetite so that we can make a multi-million-pound decision. All right. You're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe they're a simplistic form, but does that mean there's no value? The way people talk about risk appetite statements, it's almost like they think that they do harm, that they're harmful, that they're poisonous, that they're toxic, that they're radioactive. I'm not sure. So this is a defense of risk appetite statements. Are they perfect? No.
Of course not.
Of course not. Are they a magic wand? No. But are they so bad? We're not so sure about that. This is our defense.
The infinite improbability drive was invented following research into finite improbability, which was often used to break the ice at parties by making all the molecules in the hostess's undergarments leap simultaneously 1 foot to the left in accordance with the theory of indeterminacy. Many respectable physicists said they weren't going to stand for that sort of thing, partly because it was a debasement of science, but mostly because they didn't get invited to those sort of parties.
So the risk appetite statement, the function of this really is to set some kind of clear, simple measurement that we can all use to objectify our opinion and our take on risk, to something for us to all focus on, right?
Exactly. And you know, the risk culture inside an organization is nothing but an iceberg. On the surface of the iceberg, we have the visible risk culture. In other words, the way we say we get things done.
Yeah.
And this is composed of vision, strategy, policies, procedures, shared values, and all that, you know?
Yeah.
And on the flip side of this iceberg, we have the invisible risk culture, which is the way we really get things done, as opposed to what we say we get things done.
Yeah.
And this is composed of the perceptions, values, shared assumptions, traditions, unwritten rules, and personal risk interpretation of each step. So the question is, where's the balance? What is the instrument to align the organization around one set of common risk metrics? How to cultivate the risk culture, how to disseminate the risk ownership in an organization.
I mean, I think what we hear a lot when we talk about, the attack on risk appetite statements, you often hear, this is part of what's called RM1, Risk Management 1. So we need something more detailed. At the end of the day, if your organization is going to make a multi-billion-pound deal, if you're going to buy the business of a competitor and you're deciding whether or not that's a good idea, then of course you need to do some deep analysis in your decision making. You need to understand your assumptions. You need to do some kind of quantitative analysis, some sort of Monte Carlo simulation, some proper decision trees to understand, if we follow these assumptions, what are the scenarios? Will we achieve this objective? Will we exceed it? Nobody's denying that. I think the risk appetite statements are being taken out of context. Nobody's suggesting that we use these for huge decisions, but they're day-to-day practical tools, right?
It is, definitely. And there are many pitfalls, once again, that we have to pay attention. Clearly, there is nothing like a one-size-fits-all type of solution when we're talking about the risk appetite framework and statements.
If murder was legal, there would be so much murder. Regular people would murder. Murderers would murder even more. And then really nice, sweet people would murder a few people. But nobody would murder no people. You wouldn't trust somebody who didn't murder. If murder was legal, you wouldn't like them. I never killed anybody. Okay, nice meeting you. Ugh. What a creep.
Let's take the example of laws. So we have all these different laws. You shouldn't steal, you shouldn't murder. Obviously, people break these laws. People bend these laws. People try to get away from these laws. But imagine what the world would be like if we didn't have a law against murder. There would be more murder. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer a rule which objectifies the risk, which sets a standard, which everybody knows that they ought to follow, even though some people try to bend it or break it, or do you prefer nothing at all? I think that the value is in that. When there's something there, we're aware that there's a penalty of not following the rule, of breaking the rule. There's going to be some kind of consequence. Psychologically, this is triggering the universal principle of persuasion of scarcity, or what the psychologist Jack Brem calls psychological reactance, right? So when we can lose one of our freedoms or possessions, we want it more, we care for it more, we like it more. So when we set these statements, we know there's a consequence of not following them. And we're afraid of that consequence. Therefore, we're more likely to follow these rules. Not always, they're not perfect, but they're going to do some good on a practical level.
Definitely. One thing that I've seen among all the pitfalls is failure to integrate and embed risk appetite framework into the operational decision-making process. Because all the measurement that we are making is just not for the sake of it. We are trying to assess the risk profile of the organization. Because risk is all about anticipation. So we have to make sure that all the measurements that we're making serves a purpose for the future of the organization.
This is the beautiful friend.
You were telling me about one of your risk appetite statements. All assets exposed to the internet are patched in time to reduce the risk of being hacked. It's simple. It's nebulous. What do we mean? What do we mean by all assets? What do we mean by in time? We can discuss till the cows come home what this means. Quick question. So once you've built the tool, how much time does it take to apply the tool?
It's not that time consuming afterwards, and it gives you a perfect instrument to know where you are, what is your targets, and it gives you a perfect instrument to measure your risk profile.
Is it the only thing you should have in your toolkit as a risk manager? Obviously not. Nobody's saying that. Do you need to be able to do quantitative analysis? Do you need to be able to do things like Monte Carlo simulations or make proper decision trees? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, risk appetite statements, the root of all evil, not particularly. What time is it?
If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-Team.
It's A-Team time. If you have an assurance problem, if no one else can help you, then we can, because we're your assurance agony ants. Send your questions to the aplan@zohomail.eu, and we'll be more than happy to help wherever we can. So that's it for this fine week, Assurance Heroes. This has been the A-Plan podcast. A is for assurance. And if you liked it, then like it below. And until next week, never forget, when your A-Plan's good, you don't need no B-Plan.